A Jacob van Rooyen suspension has the footy world divided, while there was some unwarranted boos for one of the AFL's most admired. The Lions, under the lid, exercised a brilliant game plan of suppression, and Brody Myercheck lit up the G with his best Diego Maradona impression. The Bont once again proved his class. The Blues are at an impasse, and Matty Rowell's eating grass. To rip through everything from round 8 of AFL action on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub, the man with the biggest shoe deal since Michael Jordan, Joey Montagna.
Hello, Rabsy. Very good again. Love it. And I'm looking forward to today's show. I tell you what, I haven't been this excited since Suck when it came Corns about, I don't know, Paddy Dangerfield's weight or something, but looking forward to today.
Footy's biggest and baddest newsbreaker, Damien Barrett.
And like Joey, Rabsy, it's always good when one of us, and not me,
And not us.
is in the news for the wrong reasons, and we're going to get to the bottom of that.
Well, and the man who somehow keeps his finger on the pulse despite doing no research and watching absolutely no footy whatsoever, Daisy Thomas.
Hello, gents. Yes, what a week it's been, eh? What
Quite
a
one,
week it has been. Just a quiet week.
Hello, part-timer.
I can't believe how much my phone has lit up in the last 48 hours. Generally, I get a little bit nervous when that starts to happen because I think, what have I maybe done wrong? Who's coming for me? But on this occasion, oh boy, was it some interesting comments made.
Well, if there is a listener who is not yet aware of what we are talking about, we'll just remind them. You have managed to find yourself in a stoush with my man, Kane Corns.
He is your man, which is a disgrace to start with.
Now, let's just go back to the comments at question here. Joey, in true Triple M style, we need to get to the bottom of this. Other stations would avoid these types of moments of conflict with one of their own, but we just embrace it. That's a Sam Newman ideology.
Yep.
James Brayshaw's brought it. We have to do it. So we'll just set it up again. Monday night, Footy Classified, Kane Corns.
I'm sick of AFL figures having opinions off the back of other AFL figures, and for likes of Daisy Thomas and Tony Shaw, who work part-time and they don't have to do a lot of on-air time, for their big opinions this week to be something that I said 12 months ago on SEN SA is embarrassing. So get up early, watch the games, work hard, and stop having opinions off other people's opinions. If I employed these people, I'd want my money back.
Are we starting to get concerned for Kane? Just in terms of the ramblings that he's now going on with? So I questioned his comments, and yes, it may have been 12 months ago, but he still made them, and they're factually, statistically completely incorrect. We got asked about them by Jay-Z on Sunday, got asked about them on Monday. So I don't think he needs to flatter himself with the fact that I'm purely just sifting through his crap and what he's saying to have a hot take. It wasn't a hot take. It was purely just a discussion in and around saying that Tim Taranto isn't in the top 150 players is completely factually and statistically incorrect. So that's all I was going with. But for him to come out and say, I'm sick of these media types having opinions on other media types' opinions, like, what is going through his brain at the moment? That is the entire industry. That's a space that he lives in probably more so than any of us. He makes the big calls. And at the minute, the issue I have with Kane, and this wasn't always, because I think there was a time where he would make a big statement, and if he was wrong, he'd happily put his hand up and fall in behind it and say, hey, every now and then I get it wrong, and I'm happy to continue with it. And I think at that stage, we all admired him. But at the moment, his lack of want to put his hand up and admit that he's got things wrong, this is clearly one of those situations. He fell in behind the Jack Ginnivan pile-on. He started the one with Jason Horne-Francis and wouldn't put his hand up and say he was any part of that. The only thing that this does to Kane Corns is start to damage what people think of his credibility and his statements.
So you're doubling down.
100%. Well, do you agree that the comment about Jacob Hopper not being in the top 150 is a sensationalised load of garbage?
No, what I will, again, I'm not here to defend Kane. And Kane
It sounds like you're about to.
No, I'll just give it a context, Days. I've never known Kane, and you can have your opinion on me for saying this, I've never known Kane to say something deliberately, which he's been accused of by Damien Hardwick, purely for a click. Now, I don't agree with everything Kane says. I don't agree with him on Hopper. I've said that on air. I think I've had the conversation with Taranto, more so. But that's his opinion on that. Now, what I will defend him on, and again, you can shoot this down if you want to, obviously, and you can jump in too, Joe. Yep. I've never seen him act in a way that suggested to me, and I think I'd call it out because it's not something I would aspire to be, saying something purely for the sake of it. Now, you can have the debate around all of that, but I will defend him on that aspect of it.
That's completely fine. But what about his comments in and around, and I take exception to the fact that he started to call me a part-timer. That's, again, factually incorrect.
Yep.
I don't watch enough football. Well, he obviously has no idea how I prepare for my weekends of football because I'd watch so much more football than he'd ever cast an eye on. And in terms of my grasp on the modern game and how it's played, it would be
So that
exponentially.
stuff hurt naturally.
It didn't hurt. It's
and-
just incorrect. Again, it's another statement that he's made. He didn't address the issue that he hasn't admitted that he was wrong in the context that Taranto is clearly in the top 150 players. Spin it whichever way you want. That's what I went him about. And he ducked and weaved, which is starting to become part of what he does now, rather than falling behind and say, you know what? I did get it wrong. But to question people having opinions on opinions, come on, Kane, that's the entire industry.
Yeah, and to be fair, as you touched on it, we were asked the question from Jay-Z, who brought it up off the back of Taranto being the best on ground on the Saturday game, which you worked at, and off the back of Damien Hardwick's comments about Tim Taranto and Kane. It became news, didn't it? It was a topical talking point. So I think it was fair to be asked the question, and all Daisy and we all did was just give our view. So I probably agree with you, maybe saying about Kane not saying things to sort of get clickbait. That's fine. But the reason why I think the Taranto topic in particular became so topical wasn't just a flip it, he's not in the top 150 one-off comment on the show. It was the fact that he's made it a big news item by going for a number of weeks about, Richmond will regret the trade. It's going to be a Hawthorn-like decline because of the Taranto Hopper deals. Taranto's the worst kick in the competition. So I think it was the continually backing over the Taranto topic that was what rolled up Damien Hardwick, I've got no doubt, and what made it topical. So I think it's fair that Daisy was allowed to have a comment on the situation.
Yeah, it's an opinion game. And
Yeah,
again,
right.
I get that aspect of it too. I mean, traditionally, we in media would not have commented on other media.
No.
As weird as that sounds, because it's become a sport in itself now.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, the public will say they don't like it, but I tell you what, they love it more than anything else in
Everyone
the game.
loves it. You would know about a good journo stash. People love it.
Journos never win. As a journo, the retired player can occasionally win. So,
But is it because there's more media now, more podcasts and shows and things that you are going to talk about the same topics and the newsy items? Is that
And Joey,
fair?
you follow enough international sport. I mean, I follow the NFL sports, particularly NFL. US sports, particularly NFL. Nothing happens in the AFL compared with that sport and that country with the range of sports it's got. And we do hold on to a story and a topic for days, sometimes weeks on end, because of the cycle not changing. And that's all part of it. So we then look for other aspects. And the public, whether they admit to it or not, loves what's happening now. They'll love what you've just said in return, and they love what Kane said on Monday night.
Yeah.
I respect the fact that you say that Kane doesn't just say things for the sake of saying them. And he did say, I listened to the Dylan Friends podcast. I often listen to that. And he was on that talking about his own views on things. And he said, I don't think I've made a statement, I'll paraphrase, that I don't believe, but it's then how far you take it or are willing to go. So there's no doubt that some of the stuff he might not believe Taranto is in the top 50, but then to sensationalise it to be a top 150, this is where you start to lose that credibility.
Yeah, and
because it
that's
can
a fair
easily be defunct.
argument from your perspective and your lens on what you see with Taranto and what Kane has said about it.
And I will continue to stick up for players too, because of someone who's been in that space of you don't really have a voice as a player. When someone's going to go you for something that isn't entirely accurate or even close to the mark, I think the discussion has to be had. And if you are a player and an ex-player, you have a duty to call this out and call it for what it is. Tim Taranto is a fantastic player at the Richmond Footy Club. He's clearly within the top 150 in the league. So for us to sit there, we'd be, not doing our job correctly if we didn't stand up for it.
Joey, when we talk about this space and how it's now used by media, by retired players, by old-fashioned journalists, the coaches are in on it too. Like Damien Hardwick, don't for a moment think that he didn't say that deliberately after that game. Now, they'd just beaten West Coast. They were in a fight of their lives for the first 2.5 quarters. They've only won one game in the season before that match. He knows the power of personalising and attacking Kane Cornes post-match. It diverts everyone away from what's happening to Richmond at that point in time. He knows other media is going to pick it up. And so what he actually accused Kane Cornes of, he was actually doing himself. And I would argue in his position quite cleverly to divert attention.
Yeah,
so
okay.
It's all psyche. It's all part of the cycle, and people like Damien Hardwick use the cycle to their own gain, as we all do at certain points in time as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just got to realise it's footy. We all love it. We all talk about it because we enjoy it, and the people that listen, want to talk about it, and we'll continue to talk about footy. But I think you're right about looking after the players a little bit. I mean, we were critical of the Horn Francis stuff for the same reason. If you keep doubling down, and then wonder why it becomes a big thing, that's probably the part for me that I feel a bit uncomfortable about. If you go on about the same player too often, it becomes bigger than it actually should be.
Yeah.
And that's what creates the situations we've had in the last sort of month.
I've looked at the on-air scheduling too. Sunday, Kane Cornes is on for SEN specials. and I'm on for Triple M special.
Hey,
So
here we go.
there may be an
Back room
opportunity
at the media- back
to
room at
just
the media
take this
box.
up in person and further this discussion. And I
Will you go
welcome
and
it.
shake his hand?
If he apologises, 100%.
Hey, very good. Interesting.
An explosive start to the midweek rub. Up next, Damo's news, Jacob van Rooyen and Hawthorn racism investigation. We'll get the latest on that. Fair Dinkum or Fugazi and your round 9 predictions still to come. But Damo, it's time for some news. And as we speak at 11:16 a.m, Melbourne will appeal the suspension to Jacob van Rooyen.
Yeah, it's expected for them to do that. And I think on the back of what they found last night at the tribunal, they've got reason to take it to the appeals tribunal. So, look, I think I'm a lone voice in feeling that what Van Rooyen did against Ballard was worthy of a sanction. Now, and I get that. I don't need to back over that. I felt it was in keeping with what they wanted to do with the protection of the head. I'm yet to see an ex-player, of which you two are, agree with that. So give me your takes quickly. And do you, like Simon Goodwin has said today, Days, said that this is actually a fabric of the game issue that needs to be challenged?
Yeah, and this is where when you have played a lot of football and at the top level, when you're making split-second decisions, and I can almost think through every decision that he's made there. You can see Van Rooyen looks up at the ball. He can't clearly follow the ball like that because he has ground to make up. So he's reacting to the eyes of Ballard and the hands. So he's looking up, watching where the ball's going to land, and then making a play on that in his best attempt to not make any contact, because front-on contact will be a free kick against, or if you hit him in the head, you're going to get suspended. I think he did everything within his power to try and avoid the contact in a footballing motion. Yes, there was contact made. It was the inside of the bicep. It just staggers me that this gets 2 weeks when we see other things at the tribunal that weren't footballing actions then be let off.
We'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah,
On
I
this
think where the fabric of the game is challenged was from the sort of the way that was interpreted by I think Jeff Gleeson, when it was said that a reasonable player would have foreseen that in spoiling the way he did, it would have almost inevitably resulted in a forceful blow to Ballard's head. So my concern is if you change that spoiling to marking, why would that mean it's going to now apply to marking? That a reasonable player would have foreseen that in marking the way that he went for the ball, it would almost inevitably result in a forceful blow. Because now you're opening it up to a can of worms. We knew about the tackle and the bump, and I think we all were on the same page. But if you are now going to apply that potential to cause injury for a spoil, why wouldn't it not apply to a mark? So if someone's backing back and you know you're going to drive your knee into their head to take a mark, that they could apply the exact same law to that situation there, and that is why the fabric of the game will change.
And a fresh-ish example, and I know there's no such thing as precedent, but the Lockie Fogarty or Darcy Fogarty incident with Nathan Murphy where he was clearly hit in the face from that marking contest. If you line that up with that same statement last night, where does that fit?
Yeah.
Fogarty?
It wasn't even a free kick.
No, it wasn't. No.
Well, that was a mistake. They admitted that was a
Yeah, that
mistake.
was a mistake.
Clear mistake, but then to have no sanction on the back of it,
Yeah.
and then this kid gets 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think Melbourne obviously going to appeal because they have to.
Yeah, and again, there is an element of doing it for the game as well, which, and again, you know my views, Joey, on the match review office, into the tribunal,
you can't
onto the
play.
appeals tribunal. You just keep
Week by
rolling the
week.
dice and you'll get your result one
Week
stage.
by week, you're proving correct that it's a lottery at the moment with the tribunal.
When I think of these things, and I always go to the sort of the end of the season. So if that was to cost you 2 games, a prelim and a grand final for that action in what you've done in the heat of a battle in a final, if he didn't contest that ball in a final, his coach, the fans, everyone in the AFL world would be saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? There's an expectation that you do go and do it. And I think he was able to do it in a manner which caused the least amount of harm.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, Damo, because I haven't heard your reasoning why that should be. What was the suspendable action?
To me, again, I know I'm in a minority, Joey, and I get that.
That's fine.
But I feel it was. I felt when I saw it, and I did watch it back on the Sunday morning before I commented on the Sunday Footy Show. It was in that zone of making impact and potential to hurt opponent in that particular act. And that's what the match review office thought. I didn't know what they were going to determine on that particular day. I thought 2 was too many for
So do you think that can apply now to a mark if you potential to cause injury in a marking contest?
Unrealistic.
You know you're going to hurt someone because they're coming back with the ball. You can see they're coming, but you know you're going to run at that footy to try and mark it. Do you think that should apply in the same fashion?
On what you said that Jeff Gleeson said, if you apply that to a marking contest, yes, it does. Yeah. Which brings up a whole uglier issue, doesn't it? From for the big picture.
Yep.
Just to your point before, Days, about some mixed messaging. So Nick Newman hits or makes contact with Lockie Neal, and on a technicality, because it was not the arm that he was charged with using to make that contact, and Lockie Neal's evidence for some reason is allowed again, because I thought we banned players giving evidence. The old players code thing was out, but because it was poor footage or lack of good footage that they allowed him to partake in that. I don't get that.
The potential to cause when you're throwing an elbow at someone's chin or throat is surely greater than making a footballing spoil.
I would have thought so.
And that's where we sit there last night. We see Brad Close, who does a footballing action with a tackle, and they've stamped that out. No dramas. Have a week. Unfortunate you didn't get off. But then to see an elbow, and a deliberate elbow, not in anywhere near the ball, to be let off is just mind-blowing. And we sit here again, and I know the Duck was big on this. He goes, this will be a talking point till the end of time. The tribunal will not change. And he's actually correct.
Something that might also be a talking point for a very long period of time is the Hawthorn racism situation, which is now nearly 8 months in the public domain, that being grand final week of last year when the ABC reported that Hawthorn itself had investigated racism and had then presented to the AFL the findings or the contents of that investigation. The AFL had set up an independent panel of 4 people to assess its own take on this situation. And we get to today, and there is yet to be any form of questioning of Alistair Clarkson and Chris Fagan, who are the most public people who have had accusations and allegations made against them. It's too long now for anyone's liking, inclusive of people involved in it, people who made the allegations, people who have to defend themselves of the allegations, and the whole system itself. And there's a lot of unease now across the competition as to how long this has taken and what now needs to happen, given those 2 men who are the most public people attached to it are yet to be asked by the independent panel for their take.
So what has been the hold-up in terms of getting Fagan's and Clarkson's input in this?
I'll have to leave that to the independent panel to explain that, Dave, because no one knows. No one knows. There's been an attempt at mediation, which is an often common path for these such matters. But again, without getting too specific and weighing it down too deeply with the specifics, there's been a reluctance of Fagan and Clarkson to go into that mediation with the set parameters of the mediation itself, that they would like to go in cold, so to speak, and just answer and give their take on the situations without being beholden to needing to answer a certain set of legal claims. And that's a large issue of it. And as such, they don't want to. They'd rather make it public and then take it down the courts of the land path.
Which is probably fair enough. So I suppose the question that people want to know, is there a path for a satisfactory outcome for all parties?
No.
There's no path.
No, and I never thought there was going to be.
Right.
I don't think there'll ever be a satisfactory path for all parties. And how that looks, Joey, no one knows. The AFL doesn't know. The lawyers attached to it have complicated it as they do. It's their job to protect their people they're representing. But we get to this stage now where, unfairly in my eyes, the 2 main public people attached to it are yet to be able to have their say.
So every chance has lined up at higher levels.
I would say guaranteed to end up in high levels on multiple platforms.
Yeah, which is disappointing, isn't it, for everyone?
Booing? Have we got time for that, Rabs?
Yep, look, booing.
So just look, we've all seen what's happened this week with Buddy Franklin. Jason Horne-Francis plays against North Melbourne in Tasmania this week. You'd think it's going to happen again. The context on that type of booing, though, is it's going to be far more savoury, if there's such a word with booing, than what we saw on the weekend potentially against Buddy Franklin.
I don't think we have an issue when it is you come up against your old club for a first time.
Bit of theatre, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's it. It's a byproduct. The fans are disappointed that you left. It means traditionally you're a good player. If they didn't care, they wouldn't boo. But when it comes down to things like the Buddy Franklin situation on the weekend, there's no spot for that. There's no reason why Collingwood people should have been booing Buddy Franklin in that situation.
Did your mind days on that one go to the racism component? Because mine did. Now, I've got no evidence to say that that's why they were booing, and I say that, and I mean that. But that's where my mind went.
Yeah, my mind went to the Adam Goodes situation. And in terms of whatever way that was framed and put out that, oh no, we were booing him because he was good, we think and we understand now after watching the documentary in and around that it was a pretty long bow just to say you're booing because he was just a good player. So that's my concerns in and around that. And I love the way that the Collingwood Football Club came out and handled it. A message from the coach, a message from the CEO, and a message from the captain. And yes, there's been some backlash, some of the supporters sending in their membership. That's completely fine. No dramas there whatsoever. But if the wider and all-encompass view of your football club is we're not doing it, well, you'll just be the outliers then.
Yeah. And another player that expects to get booed has actually spoken about it. It was our man, Tommy Stewart.
Obviously, in that moment, I did the wrong thing, and they're probably fair enough allowed to boo me. I mean, some of the things that happen throughout the league of those that are getting booed aren't fairly just, I think, but I probably deserve it in this respect.
That was on SEN, and that's probably another case where it's okay. If you're the villain because you've done something on the field, it's like a bit of theatre to get booed. That's fine when it's in context, but that'll be fascinating. But
it will be. He's referencing there of the Dion Prestia moment
right.
out of last year, which he was suspended for. But I found that really enlightening the way he's speaking and preparing and almost saying, look, do it, get it out of your system, and I deserve it.
It's the last part of his repentance for his act. It was the booing, and then hopefully can move on.
Fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a...
I'm going to start with you, Joey Montagna. Darcy Moore will be the All-Australian captain this year.
Oh, it's a good question.
Good question.
Is this original content or someone else? Have you heard this from somewhere else?
No. Rudy came up with
I like it, Rudy. Yeah. I think this is a good one. When I saw it, I was like, I think that's fair dinkum because right now he's the number one defender in the game.
The number one.
Yep, he's gone past Tom Stewart and Stephen May this year as the best defender in the game.
Ahead of Cal Wilkie.
Ahead of Cal Wilkie.
There you go. Yeah, okay.
So he's the number one. He's the top of the tree, which means I think every chance he can be All-Australian captain. Good call, Rudy.
Good question.
Fair dinkum.
All right. Daisy, Port Adelaide will finish above Geelong.
Oh, I will go, I'm going to say Fugazi. I just believe in what the Cats do. Even when they were zipping 3 to start the season, I couldn't have been more bullish on them turning it around in some sort of manner and getting back to where they were. You don't have a season like they did last year without being a really quality outfit, and they've only got better in terms of who they've brought in. So I think without seeing the actual draw and what they've got, I'd comfortably say that the Cats will get over them by maybe 1 or 2 by the end of the year.
And sneaking under the radar, 7 or 8 injuries to their best 22. Like they are missing a lot of good players, and yet they're still now just notching the wins.
There's 2 Friday night games, Damo. West Coast versus Gold Coast will be the least consumed game of the season.
No, because it's on a Friday night, it actually will be consumed. People will watch. I've got no doubt. If it was the Friday afternoon game, maybe, Rabsy. So that's Fugazi.
Did we get the numbers on North v St Kilda on Sunday?
There'll be a question about that coming up later on.
I apologise.
Joey, Noah Anderson will be the best player in the competition at some point in his career.
Oh, I like it. I can't go with fair dinkum. I'll have to say Fugazi just because of some of the kids that are coming through slightly younger than him, Nick Dacos included. But Noah Anderson is having it was a sneaky good year up until the last 2 weeks, and now everyone's noticed. He's having an awesome season, so well done to him. He's going to be a superstar, no doubt, but not the best player in the comp, no.
Damo, I'll play you some audio from our man, Bernie Vince.
For what it's worth, I think there's only one spot up for grabs in the top 8.
And that
I think we're nearly locked in. The top 7 is locked them in.
Lock it in.
So that's Melbourne, St Kilda, Brisbane, Port Adelaide, Geelong, Western Bulldogs. Right. Carlton are 8th. I reckon that 8th spot's wide open for Carlton, Essendon,
and the Crows.
Adelaide.
Yep.
Sydney and Freo are next, but I can't see them turning their season around.
When I play you some Bernie audio, you all thought it was going to be a stuff-up. It is actually being serious.
It's long-winded again, though, from Bernie.
So, Damo, there's only one spot up for grabs in the top 8. Do you agree with Bernie Vince?
Fugazi. Joey likes to put the ladder in place in concrete
really
after round 2.
But
I mean, I see Bernie's doing it after round 8. There's 15 matches left, and let's see how it plays out.
Daisy Thomas, you kick some really good goals in your career.
Agree.
Myercheck and Ashcroft will be the best goal of the year quinella in history.
Fugazi. I think the goal that Sonny Walters kicked up in the same game as Will Ashcroft is underrated by a lot of us. To do what he did. And the Myercheck goal was fantastic, but you're on the goal line. As long as you make contact with the ball, that's going through. Throw yourself on the ground for a bit of extra theatre. So for that reason, I say...
take away from it, It's pretty good.
I'm just going off what I could do. And if I had the option, I think I'd kick the Sonny Walters one maybe 3 times out of 10, and I'd get the one that Myercheck had maybe 9 times out of 10.
And the Ashcroft one?
Probably... I don't reckon I could do that 1 in 100.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. So that's clearly...
Even to the point of 1,000, maybe. Yeah. It's incredible.
Damo, of the 3 blokes in this room, Daisy would be the most likely to get an Instagram influencer deal with a boot manufacturer.
Absolutely fair dinkum.
You're not aware of what's going on.
No, I am. But I was just going to get an answer to allow you to then do what you want to do.
Well, I would have historically said that this is fair dinkum as well, and I'm not above putting my hand up and say every now and then I do promote some things on my Instagram for cash.
Trust me, Rabsy, I would have rather post a photo of a car than
As
Daisy
we
put a photo
came
of a car.
across
I'd rather a car.
Instagram yesterday,
I'd rather a car than a pair of
jump
shoes.
online for Joey 20 for 20% off
Joey.
your boots.
Give me a Mazda, any day.
It's a Nissan.
Nissan, sorry, give me a Nissan.
Do you want to
Joey,
run us through it?
what have you
For
done?
those who've missed it.
Trying to help a friend, and geez, look at the backlash.
Well, we can help promote it too if you want to bring it in for the midweek rub.
Yes, anyway, all good.
Mention the brand.
Nah, it's all right. We don't need to do
Nah,
that.
give him a plug.
That's what you meant to do.
This is what, this is where you
No,
double
I'm not
down.
getting paid that much to give him
Wild Rhino shoes.
Good shoe, yeah, a couple of pairs of shoes.
They looked all right, don't they? There's some of his work.
They do look good.
Yeah.
All right, wrap it up,
Look very
Rabsy.
comfortable there, Joey.
Sort of a retro fit.
I'll save you, Joey. The only thing more boring than the Coronation was North Melbourne versus St Kilda at Marvel Stadium.
Well, that's fair dinkum. I've tried to catch up on that game because I did the Collingwood Sydney game, and I got to halftime and I spoke to some people that were there, and they said no. And this is from St Kilda people that have sat through a lot of crap games. They said it was the worst game they've ever sat through. And we had a day where Lee Fisher took 18 marks at half back. We chipped it around that much. So they're saying that is up there with the worst game of all time. So I didn't get through the second half.
Well, I'm a North supporter, and I had that game on and split screen when I was watching it. I just turned it off halfway through. I just made the big screen, the one screen, not the North Melbourne game.
7
It was
points to
unwatchable.
half-time.
So anyway, win's a win. Tick it off.
Daisy Thomas, Steve Johnson's Sunday supper antics are bringing the Sunday rub into disrepute.
Yeah, that's fair dinkum. This was an initiative that I started and I hoped that it would be received as well. And I thought I was going to go first and set the bar. And after that, the boys have just taken to it. Joey brought in some dumplings and some homemade sausage rolls. Jay-Z brought in a slow cooker, and we had slow-cooked 10-hour pork tacos at Marvel Stadium.
Brownie bought the lasagna.
Brownie bought in lasagna. And then Stevie J bought in quiche and orange cakes, to which none of them he made. And so far so that the orange cakes were made by his 8-year-old daughter. So the only points he gets is for having an intelligent and smart 8-year-old daughter. Because I reckon if I sent Matilda Thomas in to make orange cakes, I'm not sure what would come back out. So Stevie J, you've been very good so far, but you need to be better in this space.
Yeah.
I'll stick with you, Daisy. If Matt Rowell is going to continue averaging 14 contested possessions and 8 clearances a game, he can eat all the grass he wants.
Yeah, that's fair dinkum. The only concern I have for Matt Rowell is what's on the grass. We know that the grass is very green at a lot of these stadiums, and a lot of herbicides and pesticides get put in them. Just don't want to be too caught up in consuming a great deal of it. And don't animals do it when they're sick to try and flush their guts out? So it's bizarre, but it's working.
I'll finish with you,
Like me
Damo.
smoking it before it does.
Joey and Daisy being tapped for the Friday huddle shows that the midweek rub is airborne and clearly the show the big wigs listen to.
Oh, no doubt. And we as a group on Friday may well be fracturing in front of our eyes with Howie just taking off to cover IPL and Darcy just taking a holiday last week. So
they
I
back
don't even
this
know whether
week?
they're back this week,
Are they?
actually.
You're not sure?
I don't even know. We don't even talk anymore.
The
So
beauty of it is if we do get a call up, I'll get told on Friday morning.
I was going to say,
discuss it on the midweek
I'm not
rub.
coming back, Dame. I've got plans. I've got to watch West Coast, Gold Coast Friday night.
You got your pizza and beer night.
off the screen for Foxtel. Yeah.
Well, speaking of that game, oh, Dylan Leach. Speaking of that game, we'll get your predictions for round 9 coming up next on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Round 9 kicks off with a double header on Friday night. Before we get your predictions, let's listen back to your certainties from last round. Just recap your certainties.
My
for us,
certainty will be
please.
Fremantle over at home against Hawthorn. They'll get the win.
I'm going the same for my certainty. Fremantle to beat Hawthorn.
Western Bulldogs in the nation's capital.
All we're right for, I think that's the second week in a row.
On fire.
I think it is.
I got 9 for the first time. Very good. Well done, Dale. Woo.
We didn't really go out in a limb, did we, Damo?
No, we didn't
That's
actually.
all right. We just needed a confidence booster. Right.
Daisy Thomas is the Oracle.
Part-time Oracle.
Let's kick it off. Richmond versus Geelong. I think this could be a very big game at the MCG on Friday night.
Yeah, this will be a cracking game. Can't wait for it. I'm giving Richmond a chance in this one. I think they've been playing better than maybe they've been given credit for. They've had a lot of injuries. They're starting to get some players back. They were poor in the Gold Coast game, but either side of that, they've been very good. The Melbourne game was probably their best performance. Hopefully they get some confidence after the West Coast game. I think with some injuries to the Cats, I can see Richmond at the MCG maybe winning this. So I'm going to tip the Tigers.
Oh, you're tipping the
I'm gonna
Tigers?
tip the Tigers, yeah.
That's a big upset.
Is it? Yeah,
Yeah,
Tigers.
the Tigers have been going like bastards.
No, I just
They
said
broke a
haven't.
5-game losing streak at the hands of West
They
Coast.
played
and
really well against
They were
Melbourne.
behind
In the third
last
quarter.
in the
They
third
play,
quarter.
all right, we'll see.
Well, I think the Cats.
I'll get the Oracle out if Richmond win.
I'll happily pass it over
Thank
to
you.
you. I think the Cats will get this done comfortably.
Righto.
They've won 5 on the bounce, average points for 123 in that time. I don't think the Tigers can stop that.
I see your points, Joey. I'm just not brave enough to pick the Tigers. I'm going for Geelong, but not by a massive margin.
We didn't actually circle this one, but West Coast versus Gold Coast, is that a win for the Suns? Is that a certainty?
Not with the
Chance
Gold
for,
Coast
or
Suns.
Gold Coast should win if they're fair income.
There's no such thing as certainty with that club.
I've got a feeling in this one.
Ooh.
I've got a feeling the West Coast Eagles get their second win of the
Wow.
season. I think the Gold Coast Suns, you can't knock them what they've done. They
should
took-
have just beaten Melbourne.
They took it up to
Daisy.
the Ds. They beat the Tigs. They've beaten North. I just think there's a little bit of a decline coming. And history tells us with this football club, Joey, the games they should just go out and win, they historically don't.
You've been a big supporter of Geelong.
You
and
have.
you're gonna
Yeah,
say that
he's had a
gonna-
good month. He can lose this one. It's fine. I still love you, Stewie.
Freo got a win last weekend. They travelled to the SCG to face the Swans.
Yeah, they're my outsider. I think they can get the job done against the Sydney Swans. Sydney, not sure about them. Freo, this is just a gut feel one more than anything else. But for those that like to have a punt, they're good odds. I think Fremantle can cause an upset.
Gamble responsibly, of course. When do you reckon the last time Freo beat Sydney at the SCG was?
Oh, geez, probably 11 or 12 times ago or something.
2011.
Oh, well, records are made to be broken.
There you go. So for that reason, I think the Swans will give them a touch-up as well.
Yeah, Swans for me too. And brave tipping by you so far.
Yeah, you've
Joey, 2 out of 3 you've
Yeah,
gone for the
I
upset. Yeah.
Brisbane are on fire at the moment. They face Essendon at the Gabba. What do we think of that one?
Yeah, I think the Bombers can't win this one. No, Brisbane will get it done. They're flying now, the Lions.
Yeah, they're doing the things they need to do right on a weekly basis now, as evidenced against Carlton last week, and I reckon they'll handle Essendon, who just comes up short against the best clubs in the comp at the moment.
They're my certainty, the Lions. I think they get this done by a minimum of 30 plus.
Saturday night, it's a massive game for these two clubs. Carlton versus the Bulldogs, Damo.
Well, I said on this show last week I was giving Carlton one more chance.
You've said that 3 times already this season.
And I'm giving them one more chance. I'm tipping Carlton to beat the Bulldogs as my, I may as well go with the Joey, as my certainty for the round. There you go.
Oh, wow.
They're going to come out of this lull somehow, somewhere. I'm taking a punt that it is in round 9.
Yeah, I agree. They will at some stage, but I'm not going to tip them in this one until I see it. Then I'll believe, but I'm going to go the Bulldogs.
How's the next month for the Blues?
Big
Got
month.
this one, then the Pies, Swans and Ds. That is a massive season-defining month. So if
Now-
they can get through that in 2 and 2,
Yep.
I will still be somewhat confident that they may be able to make a tilt at finals. They'll need to get it right in the back half of the season. But if they go 0-4 in that, you may as well put the writing on the wall that they won't be playing finals. And if they go 4-4, we'll be talking about them as a premiership contender.
You've mentioned the finals word there. The club itself doesn't want to embrace this anymore. The CEO walked away from it quite cleverly, I think, publicly. But then when Adam Shearer comes out and says it won't be a disappointment if they fail again to make finals, what did you make of that? Will it
Again,
be a failure?
My pure opinion and how I went about things and how I saw things in and around football clubs, I don't like that. I don't like tempering expectation and especially giving yourself an out at round 8. I don't like that whatsoever. In 2010, when we won the flag, Nick Maxwell got out in front of everyone and said, we will embrace the fact that we are going to play in a grand final this year and we will go out and
You
declare.
were coming off a prelim, though, weren't you, in 2009?
They should have played finals last year.
Yeah.
So, we're not talking grand finals for the Blues. We're talking
just
a final.
Just finals, yeah.
More the psyche. Yeah, good one.
Adelaide versus St Kilda at Adelaide Oval. Do we give the Saints a chance here, Joey?
I feel bad. I haven't gotten a certainty yet, so I think Adelaide are my certainty. As much as I would love to see the
From
Saints.
the Hall of Fame Saints.
I know, the Saints. I'll be
Joey.
barracking
Instagram's
for the-
changed you.
I'll be barracking for the Saints.
Are
but
you
I
doing this
think-
to give Ross extra
I
motivation?
think Adelaide maybe.
You know, the club will use this.
Oh,
Joey
yeah.
thinks we can't
Also,
win.
If
Joey
they're
thinks
using
we
this
can't
to
win.
get motivated, then they've got some serious issues. I just really like the way the Crows are going. I think they played really well down at Geelong. And I think back at home, the Crows just a little bit too much firepower. Saints are just hanging in. They need Max King back, and then they'll get a few more wins going again.
I agree with you, Joey. Don't feel bad.
Crows for me too.
So let's wrap up your certainties again, please.
Adelaide,
Carlton.
Brisbane.
I like it.
And the
Carlton
roughie
again, Damo.
is West Coast.
and mine's Fremantle. Who's yours?
Well, mine is rough, isn't it? Carlton, being my
You can have them both.
Where you can catch every game across round 9 on Triple M, starting with the blockbuster clash between Richmond and Geelong, live from 6 p.m. Friday night with Mark Howard. He's back.
He's back.
Luke Darcy, he's back.
Well, they're both back.
Jason Dunstall, who punched you up on Friday night. Nathan Brown and Damien Barrett. This has been Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub with Joey, Daisy and Damo.